Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yuri Folani, and I'm alongside Dr. Tuyi Mebaondu, public health expert. We'll also be joined along the line by Dr. Japhet Olubogi, Chair NMA Committee on COVID-19, if I'm not mistaken, in Lagos State Branch. If I made a mistake there, he'll correct me when we come on air. Well, Dr. Mebaondu, a very fine morning to you. COVID-19 is still very, very much in the air. In fact, the British health authorities brought it more to the fore yesterday with a World Press Conference, presenting the latest findings on one of the vaccines, Astrazeneca, shortened sometimes to AZ. And that sort of, everybody was glued to their sets. But it turned out later on, it depends on what you think about it, that we're talking about communication here. Perhaps it's a communication issue. Because I got the impression that there was a bit of consternation, but when you look at what was said critically, the doctors, the experts, everybody was at great pains to emphasize very, very rare, very, very rarely, but that for the sake of completeness, it does exist. In fact, I don't even know what the figures are, but I'm hearing that in the age bracket that they are concerned about, that is young adults, so-called, that is 30 down, that actually there are, apart from the figure, one figure I heard was 1 in 250,000. Which then looks at like 4 in 1 million. But I don't know. I'm not going to go into those figures. You are there to make sure we don't get it wrong. So I want us to talk about this. And everybody seemed to be assuring that if you're on AstraZeneca, if you've taken AstraZeneca, go ahead and take the second dose. So, Doctor, is there an alarm?
I think what we have seen is actually the accentuation of some concern that we could have easily glossed over before the era of social media. What AstraZeneca is experiencing is a combination of what I would call the politics of vaccines, science, politics of vaccine on one side, science of vaccine on the other side, and in between a lot of conspiracy theories, anti-vaxxers, doubters, and all what have you. So you see, in that kind of challenge, if you don't manage your communication properly, that is exactly what has happened to AstraZeneca now. If you don't manage your communication properly, you allow the doubters, the anti-vaxxers, the conspiracy theories to enter into it. And then, as long as they cast doubt on the science of the vaccines through the politics of the vaccines, because again, we are seeing vaccine nationalism, economics of vaccine, and vaccine diplomacy playing out here. If we want to look at the preambles, first and foremost, AstraZeneca is firmly a British firm in a way, you understand? British and Swedish, Now, their core area is actually cancer drugs. This is about the first time they're actually entering into what we call vaccine production. In fact, when the COVID was ravaging, initially it was thought that Oxford University will partner with an American firm, Merck Pharmaceuticals, to produce the vaccine. But British said, okay, wait a minute, we can use AstraZeneca. And lo and behold, the AstraZeneca was being arranged for a takeover by Pfizer around 2014. $100 billion takeover. But that didn't happen because of the new guy that came in and wanted to turn around the company. So now, these vaccines were produced. The first challenge was this. There was a figure claimed as the effectiveness of the vaccine. The initial figure was above 70%, or there were 70-80%. Now, the data was reviewed, and they felt that, no, it's not up to that. It came back to 60-something%. That was a really mismanagement. Even 60-something% is still a very good thing, given the number of deaths we were seeing with the coronavirus. Right now, we have as much as 704 million doses of the vaccine given worldwide. All types of vaccines. Out of that, more than 200 million AstraZeneca vaccines. Okay? Now, in the first book that sounded alarm on Astrazeneca was actually a pre-verification from Macron and Germany, French president and German authority. They said, in case of Germany, they saw only 7 this blood clots in more than 1.7 million doses of vaccines administered. Okay, just 7.
Just 7.
Now, in case of EU, 4 out of about 34 million doses administered. Just 4 cases. Now, it became a challenge to manage, why are we having this situation? What could it have been? Okay, that became the first challenge that happened. And then now, by the time the thing got to US, and they saw quite that the vaccine was very effective, okay, but they were querying the data that were used to do the analysis. And before you know it, all doubters entered, anti-vaxxers entered, and then Pfizer became, a bot, like to be punched. So to the extent that they had to actually go and gather the data and review, European Medical Agency had to actually sit down and felt that, listen, what do we do with this? And then after an extensive review, what now happened was that it was agreed that this vaccine is still very, very, very effective. Don't forget, this one...
And that they are still trying to determine if the vaccine can cause blood clotting.
Yes, well, the risk... Let me give you an example. Now, all of us, we like vegetables. If you give vegetables to 1 million people, I can tell you that up to 10 of them will run tummy.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So now, if we now want to raise that as an issue, well, of course, I understand how human brains think. If you want to raise that as an issue against vegetable, then you are missing the main point. Because our target is simply this. We want to reduce the severe cases and hospitalization due to COVID-19. That's the target. Severe cases and hospitalization due to COVID-19. The vaccine does that.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you.
The vaccine does that.
Because let me introduce Dr. Japhet, our other friend, Dr. Japhet Olugbogi, Medical Officer of Health for the Apapa Igomo LCDA. He's also chair of the Committee on COVID-19 for NMA in the NMA Lagos branch. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Young Priori. I hope you're not embarrassed by calling you Young Priori.
I would prefer Yori, but thank you very much for making time for us. So you've been listening to your colleague, Dr. Olugbogi, here. We're talking about, he's been putting in context the findings and what it means for the way we perceive the vaccine, and indeed our concept of the effectiveness of the AZ vaccine that quite a number of Nigerians have by now taken at least the first dose of.
Yes, thank you very much. My colleague in the studio they actually said a lot, and I enjoyed what he has saying. So many points I would like to make. He has made them. But let me buttress the fact that every vaccine, every drug would normally have a side effect. So this Astrazeneca vaccine that we have in Nigeria also has its own side effects. Now, let me go from this perspective. These vaccines were tested in about 15,000 to 40,000 people. And the side effects that would ensue from the vaccine intake, the vaccine consumption, were recorded. And like we are all aware now, which includes some sort of feverish conditions, sore arms, some malaise, and all that. But we would have this vaccine in several millions of people. Now, if we have these vaccines being injected into several millions of people, we may have a situation whereby some people may develop some other adverse effects that were not recorded in the previous 40,000 to 15,000 people that were tested, that were used during the trial. So it's possible that we have a new rare adverse effect. Yeah, I call it rare adverse effect because we are talking about maybe 1 in 100,000 or 1 in 200,000. Now, if you don't give this vaccine to so many people, several millions of people, you may not record these adverse effects that are rare. Now, there have been reports that the AstraZeneca vaccines can cause blood clotting, and so many other factors.
Blood clotting in which age group? Is it general, or are the scientists concentrating on a particular age bracket?
No, particularly, this vaccine has actually not been proven to actually cause blood clots. Yes, there's been cases of blood clotting being reported all over the world, but the vaccine has not been proven. There's been no data to actually show that the vaccine is the root cause of the blood clot. We have what we call adverse events following immunization. Now, these adverse events can occur within a few minutes, within hours, or even several days after taking the vaccine. But it does not necessarily mean that these adverse events were actually caused by the vaccine. Now, we have the serious and we have the unserious. The unserious ones may just be the sore arm and the previous condition and all that. But we have had causes to realize that adverse events that follow this Astrazeneca vaccine jab actually fizzled away after a couple of days. People have reported sore arm, they've reported tenderness, they've reported previous conditions, they've reported some other conditions, but they all fizzled away even without using anything after a few days. We have data, even in Lagos here, to show that. Now, I also had a couple of friends who said they developed some sort of erectile dysfunction. A couple of them, one or two of them.
I see.
People also have the condition fizzling away after a couple of days without using anything at all. So, like my colleague mentioned earlier on, the risk of taking this vaccine actually outweighs, the benefits of taking this vaccine actually outweighs the risk.
Indeed.
We use the taking of vegetables and using the toilet as an example. Like I said, some people may take the vaccine and come down with some conditions which will eventually, naturally disappear after a couple of days. And a lot more people will take the vaccine without coming down with any adverse events at all. Now, if you extrapolate the benefit, if you juxtapose the risk and the benefit, you would see that we are trying to prevent people from coming down from serious illness from COVID-19. We're trying to prevent people from dying.
Okay, it froze for a bit. We'll come back to you, Dr. Olubogi. But back in studio here, Dr. Mebaudu, I think it was the chair of the panel out of the UK that actually did this live presentation. I heard him say something that actually they, scientists, were not really surprised about this because he called what is going on now a course correction. And he said he would have been very, very surprised as a man of science, as a man of research, and on an operation of such a scale as this, that there would not be some course correction along the line. Only every man of science and people who are, used to study research will understand this. And he was trying to make us lay people also understand this, that this was very much in the nature of course correction. It did not in any way speak down, talk down, or disparage, or talk about a less effective aspect of the vaccine. No, it was a course correction, and this is not a big deal in science.
Yes, again, let me just further buttress what you have just laid out now. There's science, and there's communication of science.
Okay.
Okay? Now, the scientific thinking is not the same thinking you find in the common world. You're picked up and trained to think like scientists. And the interesting thing about science is this. Well, if I'm doing a research and I get to this point, I get stuck, I don't disparage myself. I say, okay, I've not understood the dynamics of what is going on. Other people will come and then further interrogate that my point and say, this is your reason, this is your reason, this is your reason. That will help to advance the knowledge. I won't say because this thing have this kind of limitation, then it means that the thing should be thrown out. That's not the way science reasons. Mm-hmm. You get to that point, you stop and start asking further questions.
And it's probably also not the way science reasons. I'm hoping that they don't sweep anything under the carpet. They don't hide anything from the public.
That is why they are coming out with this now. It's very important in science that you must express your observation.
Okay.
No matter how bad, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how
whatever the
challenging
PR challenge of it might
you
be,
must say this
you got
is
to put
what
it out.
because once you cover it, it's a crime in science.
Okay, so to speak, it invalidates really.
It's a serious issue
because you need
now,
people to trust in the
here we are.
quality of your work.
We're looking at this. This is what has come out from all this little because this is the largest, deployment of vaccines in the whole world.
In the world.
In the whole world.
And it hasn't been done before.
704 million doses right now. Of course, Israel, US, and co, they're leading. So 704 million doses of vaccines, and you think nothing, you won't see anything untoward. And then now the narration is that with this certain age group, okay, because what this result was doing was looking at age 17 to 29. Can we give this vaccine to them? Or even lower than that, can we give vaccines to the 6 to 17 years old? They have to stop that. That, listen, what damage is this virus causing to them? Let's stop that. Then between that age 17 and 29, now they found out that out of 34 million people, less than 60-something of them actually develop this, what we call the cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, which is the clot we're talking about.
Yes.
Now, the question is, and they have low platelet. The question is that, is the vaccine causing the low platelet? What is accounting for this? Are these people having comorbid factors? Are there risk factors that we have to look at before we administer this vaccine? These are legitimate questions.
That there isn't conclusive
yes,
evidence yet.
Even for you, if there's a very effective medicine we call Septrin. Even for a lot of people, if 1 million people take Septrin today, if 1 million people take Septrin, you will see bad reaction in close to more than 100 of them. I can assure you. So you have to ask the question that, do you react to so before you administer even ordinary
which actually is on the form that we fill in
yeah,
Nigeria.
Yes,
you are asked about allergies
and all
that you need to tell to those who are going to administer it. Although we can come back and talk about that later on.
Yes, if you have a coagulation problem, then it becomes important that we have to check. You cannot give this thing to pregnant women. For those, because of the ongoing investigation, we're saying that those people below certain age, let us give them alternative vaccine and not this one. These are precautionary measures.
Exactly.
But what has happened is that the politics of vaccines, vaccine diplomacy, and economics of vaccine has now entered into the whole thing, and then give the people who are antagonistic to the vaccines room to talk and expand and mess up the whole thing. Because
so people need to keep their eye on the ball of the actual findings.
The critical point is this: are we reducing the deaths due to COVID-19 worldwide? Are we reducing the infection rate worldwide? Are people now opening up the economy and embracing themselves worldwide because of the deployment of this vaccine?
And all those questions are answered in an affirmative by most people.
That, of course, the deployment of the vaccine is making us to have gains. Don't forget, this time last year, we were all locked down.
Yes, exactly.
Don't forget, this time last year, deaths were, so
there's this risk that you really have to evaluate
now here
against the things that you're talking about. One moment, Doctor. I'm going to come back to you, sir. Forgive me for interrupting you, because I wanted to bring Dr. Olubugi back in. Against the backdrop of what we've just heard, or what he's explained to us, maybe you also have a few words on what the research people in the UK speaking to us yesterday referred to as course correction, which is not unexpected on a scale like this. And Dr. Miban would just explain that, well, you see the way science, men and women of science relate with things is not the way the public relates with it. Now, I wanted to, I noted that down, so to speak, because I wanted to bring this matter of course correction, as explained, being a totally unsurprising thing, especially in the scientific arena. But there's also the aspect of critics of the vaccines saying that, you see, they're making it up as they go along. They don't know what they're doing. And it is out there. A lot of people base their concept of, I'm not going to give myself up to be part of anybody's experiment without knowing about it. So you know that there are these attitudes outside there. Would you like to comment on that sort of try those three planks?
Yes, like my colleague mentioned, it's a new technique. You're giving this large number of vaccines to a lot of people for the first time in the whole world. So there are bound to be, skepticism. But then again, it's where risk communication comes in. It's where the public health perspective of vaccine administration comes in. And one would expect the producers and manufacturers of these vaccines, Astrazeneca, Johnson, all of them, to come out to lay cards on the table. The adapter, even before these vaccines were made. If we want to wait for vaccines to be made the way vaccines are made, we may not get these vaccines in another 20, 15 years. So we have these vaccines now, but there are adapters there, there are skeptics there.
Which doctor, sorry to interrupt you, doctor. I beg your pardon for interrupting you, doctor. Which is what, shall we call them, respectfully, the naysayers to the whole concept, which is a part of what they are saying that this has been a rush. Vaccines, in their experience, require a certain number of years to actually come up with. And now that, and of course they do state cynically that the common cold, we've not been able to get a vaccine for it up till today. Is it Astrazeneca that somehow, how come we've got it as fast as this? These are arguments advanced by those who are not in favor of taking the vaccine themselves, aka conspiracy theorists.
Well, we have a different ballgame entirely. I mean, we cannot be comparing a disease which ravages the whole world, the whole country, brings our economy on their feet, to common cold or to some other disease that do not have the same public health effect, the same economic effect, the same political effect. So it is an emergency. This is an emergency. And when you have an emergency, you create that room for an emergency preparedness. You create that room for an emergency response quickly. So the production, the manufacturing, and the distribution of this vaccine as a response to this emergency. So we don't have the same situation. And the whole world cannot wait 10 years, 15 years, 20 years for vaccines to be produced. What we have now is like wearing a bulletproof vest as compared to not wearing a bulletproof vest.
Not wearing anything at all. Okay.
Have some level of benefits with the bulletproof vest. That's what we have now.
Okay.
Even better than that.
Indeed. And Dr. Meba, also the attention of the entire world was focused on this project. I don't know if that is unlike anything that has ever gone before, where a bunch of big farmers in an entrepreneurial sort of a way will decide to attack this particular problem and come up with a drug for it. But here, every last person, every scientific unit anywhere in the world was focused on that. Might that have also had its own little bit in terms of making this seeming scientific impossibility possible, that is coming up with a vaccine this fast?
Oh, again, let's get it right. Whether adenovirus vaccine or mRNA vaccines, the research is not new. It's been ongoing, okay? Because you see, by the time you see a product,
the matter of what you're saying, sir, is that when they started on COVID-19, they weren't actually starting from scratch.
No, they were not.
They were not starting from scratch.
Because again, you have to improve scientific findings every time. Even the ordinary painkiller you use, we're getting smarter painkiller now because people are continually researching on how do we deliver this in a better way, more effective, more efficient, cheaper, and all that stuff. So the mRNA vaccine is not a new thing. The research has been ongoing.
When you say mRNA vaccine, is that
that's the Pfizer one?
Oh, okay.
The AstraZeneca is adenovirus vaccines. Actually, what you do is the part of the coronavirus you put inside another adenovirus and use it to stimulate your body to fight the coronavirus. So that is so these things are not new. We've been using it from time immemorial, just trying to apply it to a new thing. And then, of course,
and this is what hasn't been done before, especially on a global scale.
Yes, you don't expect me that the car I'm going to that we drove in 1940 will still be the same feature, will have the same feature America we drove now. Because there are always continual improvement.
So all of
now, the major challenge, what the attack that is coming out is simply this. The Astrazeneca is the baseline for COVAX vaccination. You know, the COVAX is actually how to deploy vaccine to the poor countries, to the less privileged people, you know. So it's the baseline. That is actually what even EU, what's it called, India, and WHO, they rely so much on these vaccines to reach a lot of people. And then the first challenge that came was that they felt that UK was hoarding the vaccine and was not going to give it to EU. And that was why you saw at a point in time Macron, who is the president of France, said there is, you know, he was questioning the effectiveness of the vaccine. And he said, the second day he went and took the vaccine and said, okay, let's be giving it to everybody. So, and then so, France has a lot of anti-vaxxers, people that are doubting the vaccine. 50% of France population are doubting the vaccine.
So similarly to the UK.
The UK
also has a challenge. The US have a challenge. Even Nigeria, we have our doubters.
Even right now, the achievement gotten in India, so I mean the rollout, is because of this AstraZeneca vaccine. Because they are actually producing it. And you also appreciate the fact that Russia, China, everybody is rushing to have their own influence on the vaccine. It's a multi-pronged attack. This is the politics of vaccine that you are seeing.
Beyond the mere or the core health issue, as you've explained, there are also, unfortunately, a lot of other things that surround it. Dr. Olugbogi, the thing that was emphasized is that if you've taken the first dose of AstraZeneca, go ahead and get the second dose. There in no way interfering in the dosage. But I don't know. I was even hearing something, and you'd be the best person to sort of speak about that kind of a thing. I mean, you medical doctors. Is it that we're going to stop or pause the administration of the vaccine in Nigeria, it's AstraZeneca, so that there will be enough for a second dose to complete the dosage at the end of the day? Or is that a rumor?
No, it's not a rumor. I think it's only logical that if you have, for instance, 2,000 doses, and you have those 2,000 doses for 1,000 people, during the first phase, once you are giving up to 1,000, I think logic stipulates that we stop at that. We have the remaining 1,000 doses for those who have had the first jab, so that they can all access the second jab when the time comes. So if we are not sure we're going to get more vaccines before then, I think it's only logical that we stop.
And is that the case, Doctor? Is that the case, Doctor, that we actually are not sure that we will get more vaccines so that we can continue the program? It's because we're not cocksure that we have to be prudent and stop it now so that the people that have already got it, you know, they can come back and get the... Are we not cocksure that we can still get the vaccines as we go along?
No, we are going to get more vaccines, but I'm not sure we are going to get more vaccines before the time stipulated for the second dose, which is June, arrives. So it is not certain we are going to get more vaccines before then. It's only logical that we maintain what we have now and use it up before it actually won't expire.
Okay.
Because it may expire anytime as well.
Okay. All right, Doctor. Thank you very much, Dr. Olugbogi. Stay with us, please. I'm going to take a break now, and also thanks to you, Dr. Mebaudu, so far, because between the two of you, you're sort of, you know, giving us a lie of the ground, a general lay of the ground. So we'll take a break now. When we come back, we want you that have taken the vaccine, or if you haven't, anybody who has a comment on it, to be able to call in. All of that will be when we come back. We've let the men of science set the scene. Now let the rest of us come in. Maybe there are even men of science out there that want to further contribute. We'd be delighted. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. Is Dr. Olugbogi still with us? Because Dr. Olugbogi, yeah? Well, not really. Well, Dr. Japhet Olugbogi, he's been with us. He's the Medical Officer of Health for Apapa Igomo LCDA. and we've been talking with him, as well as our doctor in studio, Dr. Tui Mebawadu, public health expert. Maybe you pick up on the point that Dr. Olubogi said. It's not a rumor. We are actually, I wanted to question him a bit more about it, but it looks like we're going to put a pause, suspend our administration of the vaccine so far, so that there will be enough for the second dose. And as you heard, I asked that, can't we continue in a rolling sort of way? Is he not sure? He said, well, we can't be sure that we will have more in time if we continue at this pace, in time in time for those of us that have already got the vaccine to get the second dose. So that's why they're being this prudent by suspending it so that we have enough for the second dose as a sort of net and insurance. What do you think about all of that?
Well, it's been quite challenging, the rollout plan of the vaccines in Nigeria, because as of now we're just doing just above 100,000 doses all this while. That is quite, if we continue like this, we're probably going to take close to 10 years to get to 80% vaccination we're targeting, 70 to 80% vaccination we're targeting. You look at, though we may not compare US with our own population, but you look at these people doing 3 million, 3 point something million every blessed day, you know, that we should. And then from the promises of the vaccine stock we got, so okay, we've got 3.9 from COVAX right now, but AU say they're going to give us 41 million doses of the combined vaccine, even as by this month. So what is happening? What is
and that's a one-dose vaccine?
No, combination. Oh. Both Johnson and Johnson, Pfizer, and all combinations. And then the 100,000 from what's the MTN, where is it? Are we so we should have sequenced the vaccine in such a way that the first does not finish before the second comes, so that we can then roll out this vaccine in a trusted manner. Our rollout plan is very, very poor, very poor. We can do better. Let's get that straight. Because by the time we're saying stop the vaccine because we don't have sufficient dose so that those people can get the second dose, you are creating a gap for more doubters to say that, look at them, they don't know what they're doing. These are very tricky thing in communicating public health, massive public health intervention. We must be able to manage that communication and manage the flow of the vaccines to meet the expectation of the people, especially those that really want to take those vaccines.
Out there, Dr. Olubogi is back, but as I said before we went on a break, we also want people to call in if they want to let us know what their experience is, especially talk about the after effects. And one size doesn't fit all is the one thing that we found. It doesn't mean that because this is the way it affected me, it's exactly the way it will affect someone next to me. People are talking about ranging from hardly any symptoms at all beyond the actual day of the vaccine, getting the vaccine, and up to maybe even 3 days later. But okay, now we have Dr. Olubogi back. But before I come to you, Dr. Olubogi, Mazi Okorav has called in. Let me speak with Mazi Okorav, and then I'll come back to you. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Sayuri.
Thank you for calling in.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
I can hear you, Mazi Okorav. I can hear you. It looks like you can't hear me. It's a network. It's a network thing. I'm sorry. We can't spend any more time on that. The connection was what it was. So, Dr. Olubogi, back to you. Back to you again now. Okay, we'll be talking a bit more about, let me just get that bit of it. You said it wasn't a rumor that we're going to have to suspend a bit. I mean, you should know you're a chair committee on COVID-19 for the NMA Lagos branch, so you would know. So we're suspending further administration of the Astrazeneca vaccine that we do have in Nigeria, so that we will have enough for the second dose by those who have already got the first dose. Did I understand you correctly? How are we going to go about stopping it? When? Is it immediate? Or just clue us in on that whole scenario.
Well, at the beginning, the first was that capital is one activity, one that is the frontliners, health workers, military paramilitary and all that, and strategic leaders, that we administer the vaccine to them for 10 days. But when we see that from logistics, the 10 days might not be enough, so the government increased it to about 20 days. So the 20 days should expire about tomorrow. So the number of people that have access to the vaccines between that time is approaching half of the number of vaccines doses that we have right now. So when we approach or reach that half number of vaccines, logic states that we conserve what we have and use it for the second dose for those who have had the vaccines. So I think that's what's going to happen. But then again, anything can change because just yesterday, I understand India has given us another 100,000 doses. That may not be unconnected to the fact that there's so many Indians in Nigeria. There's a huge Indian community population in Lagos especially. So they have had, some of them have had access to these vaccines as well. So anything can change. We may have more donations before the second dose time elapses.
Okay. Now, Dr. Mebawadu, there's the Nigerians that are not really enamored of the whole vaccine, where people are still trying to persuade them, but government has said that the vaccine will not be forced on anybody who decides to opt out of it. So there are those who are directly speaking against it for their own reasons and by their own understandings and by their own beliefs. But there's another set of people who are saying that, no, they're going to wait to travel abroad and then get their vaccine. You know, Nigerians, it happens. There are some who are saying that the next time they're in the UK, for example, they'll get it there. Maybe some other person, his home turf is the US, it might be Australia. But there are perhaps a few, but some Nigerians who are saying that, you know, I'm not going to bother. When next I travel, I'm scheduled to travel in October, I'm scheduled to travel whatever, I'll get it then.
Well, you see the danger in that kind of thinking is this. COVID will not give you a notice that, listen, I'm going to wait till October before I'm going to hit you. And as much as we still have those active cases, maybe like about 12,000, 10,000, 12,000 in Nigeria now, those that are still active, it means that the potential to transmit that virus is still with us, especially since we're having variant strains, all sorts of variant strains coming in. So now, and we look at these variant strains, they are behaving funnily, they are more, you know, some attenuate, some get a bit more aggressive. So now, the rational thing is for everybody, if you have the chance, take the vaccines and move on. What makes you think that even for you to access embassy and get visa, somebody will not give a condition that you have been vaccinated?
Not able to. So, exactly.
So let's even note that the disease will not give you a notice that I'm coming as also day. So anytime, for one tiniest reason, one may pick the virus, and you know the vaccine may be your protections, you know, against manifesting the severe form of the virus or hospitalization, which actually leads to the death. So,
and one of the other things that I thought I'd bring up with you is, you know, in understanding this whole COVID-19 issue, we came to understand something called the asymptomatic cases, where they display no symptoms whatsoever, but are still able to transmit it.
Yes.
Now, I was going to ask the question, if there is such a person who happens to be asymptomatic, but then goes for the vaccine because, as far as he's concerned, he hasn't tested, what's that scenario going to be like?
It's a double protection for the person. It's asymptomatic,
okay,
and then it's also taking the vaccine.
Okay.
So again,
so it won't cure him, or will it? I mean,
no, you see, viral getting cured is not even the issue now.
Okay.
You know, the point we are is this: one, don't transmit this virus. Two, we don't want to have the severe form of the virus. Three, we want as much people to have herd immunity as possible. So these are the points. So now, how do we achieve those things? We understand. That is why, for now, nobody is vaccinating some younger generation in terms of, you know, some age 6 to 18. Because we know that, you know, commonly those people don't manifest the severe form of the disease, okay? So while we're doing that, but they can be asymptomatic, especially people between 18 and, and 50 or 40. They can be asymptomatic. So the challenge was to think that, do we now vaccinate people to prevent transmission, or do we vaccinate the older people to prevent severity? So what we have done in our juggling is to combine both. That we don't want severe form of the disease, we don't want people also to transmit the disease. Where are the transmission points? Health workers, okay? Where they come in contact with a lot of sick people, vaccinate them. Then the security people, journalists, people that are actually having contact with a lot of people, vaccinate them so that we don't want transmission. And then vaccinate other people so that we don't see the severe form, we don't see the death form of this virus. So, I mean, it's a balanced way of thinking about deployment of the vaccination. My major concern has always been that, are we really matching up with the level of this vaccination? How long will it take if we're vaccinating just about less than 200,000 people in all this while? So where are we?
Is that the figure? That's a bit of, are you talking about a daily figure or pan-Nigeria?
That's the figure. Except, that's the figure. Let's confirm from Dr. Let him give us the exact figure.
Dr. Lubogi, are you back?
Because I remember I listened to NCDC recently.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as yesterday or day before yesterday, that's what the figure they gave.
Okay, Dr. Lubogi, has the network been any kinder? Okay, help us out with help us out with the figures. What's the latest figure you have as to total vaccination that we have in Nigeria?
Well, in Nigeria, we have vaccinated close to 300,000 people, and the number is still growing. So in Lagos, we're doing well. People are turning up. We realized that at the beginning when we started, there was apathy. A lot of people were skeptic and they didn't want to take the vaccine. But now a lot of people are turning up. Even those who are not eligible are turning up now to ask for the vaccines, and we are encouraging them to wait. When it's the time, we'll even call them to come and take their jab. So people are turning up now. That's even barring the adverse events that people are even talking about all around. So the number keeps increasing. So by tomorrow, the total number that we have vaccinated so far.
Okay. And when you look at it, Dr. Mebadu, when this policy of suspend for now so that we can have enough for the second dose, when it fully is out there, then it means that the onus on those who have not got it yet to maintain all the anti-COVID-19 protocols is even now more heightened than before. People just must continue to do all the things that doctors have always advised against, and especially those that can't get it now. Might this even cause a rush? They're going to suspend it. Oh yeah, we're going. That has made up our mind. Let's go and see if we can squeeze ourselves in there so that we be part of it. Otherwise, from what these people are saying that I don't understand, and that's probably a bit normal, God knows when we'll get another supply of it. But it's not as bad as that.
Yes, supply is a huge challenge, let's face it, because what we rely on, we're not buying, we're not purchasing, okay? We're waiting for COVAX, we're waiting for AU, we're waiting for, MTN has given its own, we're waiting for BUA, we're waiting for...
I beg your pardon for interrupting you. What you just said reminded me of the fact that they were emphasizing in their press briefing yesterday that what they're talking about affects Europe and the EU, UK and the EU. But because it is the same vaccine that we have locally, we're paying attention. Are we?
Yes, absolutely. Because again,
we're paying close attention.
We still interact with people, flights still come in and out. So the chance of transmitting even the variants one, is still very high. Okay, now, even after taking the vaccine, because of a lot of uncertainty, we still counsel that use your face mask, avoid crowd, keep social distance, wash your hands, eat very well. Even whether you have the vaccine or you don't have the vaccine. But again, the beauty is that if I'm vaccinated, if I've completed my doses and you have completed your doses, we can still stay in the same room and be able to interact. So we are seeing that by the time that vaccine is deployed to that level, we can now start seeing some people in the stadium, some people in the theater, some people in the bar. That is what we're aiming at. But the rollout in Nigeria is a huge issue.
Let's even
take Dr. Olubogi's figure, 300,000 all this while, out of 3.92 million doses, what percentage is that? It's really pitiable.
So, Dr. Olubogi, just to be clear, I understand Dr. Olubogi has had to go off. I don't know if we'll get him back again, but whatever. We don't have him right now. So, very abysmally low numbers. That comes down to our organization, which will no doubt get better as we go along, because people will be learning, because that was the whole point that the gentleman in the UK was talking about course correction. I guess a variant of that could also be here too. We've also seen what our first attempt has been like. People, maybe the experience is that, because some have this experience, they try to register online to ease the process, and not everybody is able to register online. Even when you access the site, in Lagos here, for example, LCDAs are actually not in the drop-down list that will come once you say you live in Lagos or you're from Lagos State, then a drop-down list comes on. And it seems that it is only LGAs that are in that drop-down menu. It doesn't include LCDs. This creates a problem. And even when you quote-unquote lie, just take the next nearest LGA so that you just get a vaccination number, as it was. Even when you do that and you take it, if you happen to be in an LCDA, if you take it to the center, it is my experience, are not able to link up with it. So they just start all over again. They start all over again. I don't know where they're accessing, but they start all over again, take your photograph, do everything that you did yourself online, and they're not able to use anything of the information that you brought in. So there are those challenges of deployment. I don't even think people are going online anymore. They're just arriving at the administration center.
Yes, I think what we should do really is that there must be a number we can use, honestly. Well, we've taken data, from BVN to NIN to whatever. We've taken data that there must be a number we can use. But the thing is this, we have the primary healthcare centers all over. I mean, for me, that is evenly spread, okay? Within the confine of primary healthcare centers, we should be able to see how to interact at that level and see how to deploy vaccines. There's a home, what we call census of the homes, even within Lagos.
That's
and
right.
we know
That's
where
right.
we are. There must be a way we can get. We have the CDAs, the Community Development Associations, who can be, brought into the whole system and used to drive vaccination process. We have different groups and that we can use, even your church, your mosque, your NGOs, that can be used to enhance this thing and gather data appropriately. Because you have to look at your peculiarity, because Lagos is peculiar. Lagos challenge may not be that of Rivers State, may not be that of Zamfara State, as it were, So we must be able to think within our format and rearrange how to deploy these vaccines.
Quite frankly,
300,000 for 3.92 million vaccines within all this, within close to a month is not it at all.
Well, so there we are. I guess that in a nutshell is what the whole story is all about, the fresh findings that have been revealed for the reasons that you've explained, and we also thank Dr. Olubogi as well for coming in on it. But the bottom line is that AZ is okay. If you got your first dose, go ahead and get your second dose. But for the age bracket that is focused on by these findings, the actual core issue is that provide them with an alternative so that it's either that or that. And if it is this, then you can expect this, and it's no big deal. As it's been explained, it's course correction. It's a scientific on the terminology that I said, okay, I can relate with that, course correction. And it's been said that when you do a thing on this scale, men of science, I understand, will be very, very surprised if there wasn't some course correction that was necessary, that this course correction was also expected, and that there's no need for us to be alarmed in the public. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Tuyi Mebawadu, public health expert. And well, that's our program today. We're gonna. You heard it. You know what it's all about now. But you got to keep up all the protocols of anti-COVID-19. Whether you have it, whether you've got the vaccination or haven't got the vaccination, the stricture, is still as strict as before in our own interest. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.